Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I thank the commissioners for being here. And your view, I don't know, it's reminding me of, you know, the notion that Al Gore created the internet. Chairman Pai is trying to equate the actions of the FCC with somehow enabling or forecasting the great growth of the internet economy. I guarantee you, we live in an information age and it is going to continue to grow. The question becomes whether we're going to make sure that, as some of our commissioners have said, that is easily or evenly distributed. And when 21.3 Americans still lack access to high-speed broadband, and 76% of rural Americans have no choice among broadband providers, or 3 cable internet companies have access to 70% of the market, it's no wonder the National Cable Association changed their name to the Internet Broadcasting Association. They don't even want to be associated with the bad behaviors of some of these industry tactics. So I am concerned about the number of cases that have been brought by attorney generals across the United States in the last year for everything from not adequately disclosing fees to consumers. Massachusetts, Comcast settled a case in which the company was accused of violating consumer protection laws on fees. Charter settled a consumer fraud case with New York Attorney General for $172 million for failing to deliver broadband speeds and reliability it promised. Minnesota Attorney General charged Comcast with misrepresenting cable prices. So I just see this plethora of consumer issues, and then as Mr. Stark accurately pointed out, there's real security issues. I hardly heard the word cybersecurity other than Mr. Stark's presentation, and yet I guarantee you that is one of the #1 concern of Americans. So I don't know if Ms. Rosenworth and Mr. Stark, if either of you want to comment on the number of AG cases that we're seeing across America on consumer interests and what else the FCC should be doing.
Thank you for the question. You're right, Senator Cantwell. Consumers do not feel like they're being taken care of by the FCC. State attorneys general are bringing these suits because we are not doing anything to increase consumer protection when it comes to broadband and communication services that are so essential to modern life. And as you point out, we're not doing enough to think about security either. I mean, the first duty of a public servant is public safety, and we should be thinking about cybersecurity and cyber hygiene in everything we do, and not just on alternate Thursdays when it occurs to us to pay attention. With 5G networks, we're going to have connected reality everywhere. We've got to figure out now how to build security in from the start.
Yes, very briefly. Thank you for the question, Senator. And I completely agree that the case that Comcast settled there in Washington was basically where they were putting additional things on folks' bill without them knowing about it. That is the classic definition of an interest that has to be vindicated by consumers, and it has to be done on our end. Better coordination with state attorney generals, better enforcement of our consumer protection rules, I think, is warranted.
What do you think we should do next on the Huawei case, Mr. Stark?
Yes, it's an issue. Thank you for the question. It's an issue that I am studying. I think first we need to understand the scope of it. We do know that there are small rural carriers that have this in their networks. We know that folks are focused on it going forward. I think we need to look at the harms that we have sitting in there right now. So we need to understand the scope of it. We need to understand whether it is just on the edge of the networks with radios and antennas, or whether it actually goes to the routers and servers that are actually the core of the network. And we need to make sure that we specifically focus on this national security interest. I think it is critically important.
And I'm assuming the FCC does get secure briefings on the amount of attacks to our networks on a very frequent basis. Is that correct?
Yes, we do have security briefings.
Okay, so you're well aware of the amount of infrastructure issues that are facing us and the fact that this is a very serious issue. So I don't want people thinking that, you know, that we have this horrible choice that we either give them access because they're already in our infrastructure or we disable infrastructure. We got to come up with a better process here, because allowing for a backdoor for a nation that basically doesn't honor the same principles of government prohibiting access to information, we have a challenge here, and so we need to address it.
I think that's right. And in particular, the FCC has a specific role that I think we need to lean into. It's very important that we protect the telecommunications networks that we're in charge of.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.